Bump Love is brought to you by
Unlimited internet at unbeatable prices. Dial *125# to activate your monthly unlimited internet. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
Hello and welcome back to Bump Love. If you are new here, please subscribe to our channel for all content related to motherhood, parenting, and navigating life as a woman. Otherwise, if you are already subscribed, welcome, karibuni, twasanyukidenyo. See, we are learning. Yeah. So today we speak decisions. An American pastor, Mark Batterson, is famously quoted for saying, "You are only one decision away from a completely different life." And this speaks to the significance that the choices we make in our journey as adults has a lot of impact on the future path of our lives. Yeah. Ladies, decisions. Yeah. I know some of you are even struggling with a decision right now.
Oh gosh, yeah.
As we speak.
Yeah. So one of the hardest decisions I've had to make was having to leave NTV. Yes, career change. Yes, I was ready in terms of, I feel like I have done what I can with this opportunity. There's no more room for growth for me. I was struggling with my work environment. I was not as happy and as fulfilled as I was when I joined. Okay. And I just felt like the path had ended in terms of the news specifically. And so when I got to that point to say, I think it's time for me to leave, I had to have several conversations with myself, with my husband, and I guess I'm those people who desires validation from people when I had to make that decision. Yeah. And one of the reasons I think is because, one, people revere TV and media. Okay. And so when you have a TV job, you are considered some kind of privilege, yeah? And yet those of us who have worked in the TV industry, we know that it is not as glamorous as the way you people. Yes, like it is real work, you know. It's work, you have targets, you have goals. But also because TV gives you this allure and perception that you have made it in life, because the entire country is watching you. You seem to be making a lot of money. Maybe you drive the latest car, you live in the best house, you don't eat Rolexes, you don't use bodas, you know, your hair is done all the time, you have the best clothes, you know. Basically, you are living the life. And then on top of all of that, you are getting recognition. Wow, like when you walk on the streets, people call you by name. You enter into offices and they're like, there's a whole queue, but they're like, Rachel, you come here and I help you. You know? And so leaving, I felt like, I remember struggling with the feeling that I'm being ungrateful, that I have this job where, you know, the entire nation knows me, and yet here I am saying I am done, I am tired. Like, what gives you the right to be tired? Right. People desire this job.
Yeah. Like, what's informing this?
What is informing this person who you think you are? Right? You know, and I remember day in, day out, people would come to the NTV offices. We want jobs. You'd look at them, bam, you're like, by that time you get here, you'd have to have gone through so many hoops. So I feel like I battled with the perception of ungratefulness. Like, there are people who would kill for the job that you have, and here you are saying you're done. What do you mean you're done? You know? And so I struggled with that decision. Not to mention, we live in an economy where we need money. You don't just say you're leaving. I didn't have work to go to. I was just ready to leave. Oh. Yes. At the time, I didn't have work to go to. So I was applying and looking around for opportunities, but I didn't have work. And so there was a thing of, this is not a wise decision because you don't have, like, your next step is not defined. And to top all of that off, I was also struggling with purpose. I think that was around the time where I was like, so, okay, so now I'm doing TV, then what? Yeah, like, this is my life, to what end? Why? Like, so am I going to die and use anchor? Like, and then what will people say about me? What impact am I going to leave? And so there was a lot of conversations I was having, and I really struggled, but mostly with that, who do you think you are, leaving this job that so many people revere and so many people would die to have? So it was really a struggle. Thankfully, I got work just before I had to resign, which kind of made the decision easier. But I still had moments of, but Rachel.
But otherwise, you made that decision, yet you had nothing
I
waiting
had nothing
for
else.
you.
However,
Wow.
Manuel and I had started talking about bump love. Because I remember Ben kept saying, okay, at the very least, figure out that thing that makes you happy and start working on it, start pursuing it. So when we started having conversations, I think we even started shooting.
Yeah.
Was that 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
At least we started like laying the groundwork for Bump Love and what we were going to do. And so it made
We're
leaving.
doing our famous 3 intro shows.
Yes.
Remember the same intro show we did it 3 times
And it never aired. It never aired. Yeah.
To date.
Wow. To date.
I know.
Yeah, and so that for me has been one of the hardest decisions I've had to make. Yeah.
So one wasn't in my adult life. I was actually in S4.
Oh.
But I think that was the first time I realized that I have to make a decision. Now, usually, the way our education system works is that when you reach S4, based on your performance, you pick as your career path is paved out for you.
Yes.
As long as you've done well in the sciences, you will go in the sciences. As long as you've done that well in the arts, you go in the arts. So I come out of S4 and I've done well in all of them. And I feel like my hands are being pulled in all directions. Because it's no secret that I'm multifaceted and multi-talented. So you're talking to a person who has done very well in math. Nayenga, when I was dancing during MDD, I was somebody else. I'm doing the traditional folk song. Analur, na when I remove the traditional and put in it, of the traditional folk song. You can't manage. You tell me to conduct the set piece. I am
1,000%.
1,000%. Tell me to sing soprano, alto. I will sing them.
Shining.
Yes. So I struggled with the fact that I enjoyed the sciences and as much as I enjoyed the arts. I struggled because when I went, you know, when you go to like your parents, you expect your parents to say, yeah, obviously you did well, do the sciences. My mom was just like, what do you want to do? Like,
Yeah, because usually children who do well in everything are usually scientists.
right.
Mostly.
Right.
Art students usually struggle
With the sciences.
and then do really well
In the arts.
In the arts.
usually well. Now, people more will tend towards the sciences if they've done well.
Everything. Right. But for me, I noticed that not only was I just doing well, I enjoyed it. And I didn't just enjoy the written history, even in real life. I was doing the arts really well. If you tell me to run 100 meters, now, remember I was a swimmer. You tell me to run. I was a sports girl. You can ask her, even in school. So that this, oh my God, I remember going and I felt so young and I really saw that whatever decision I made would determine my life forever.
That's where it starts.
Woo! You guys, I was so torn, so broken, so stressed, and I really struggled for the 2 years of my high school.
Oh, really?
Because even when I went to King's College, Budo, my math teacher would, Mr. Buyiza, would find me. I said, oh, Mandela. So there would be like math class and also practice. You would find me there in the middle, just trying to be into places at the same time. And I remember once he caught me and said, you're trying to make a decision where you should go, whether you should come for my extra class or you should go for. He was so amused by the fact that, and so I struggled the whole of S5 and S6 and on to campus. So I feel like I paved my way later. I don't even feel like I made that decision at that point. I just let life happen to me. I said, what's the course that Buddha has given me? physics, chemistry, mathematics, technical drawing. Okay, let me do that.
Yeah.
But they would find me in MDD. They would find me swimming. I was always engaged. Yeah. So I felt like that was one.
Do in my DM messages from high school children asking what courses, what courses they should do, what combinations that they should do. That they say, oh, I want to be a lawyer. I have these courses. These what subjects should I do in A level? And you can for grappling meet.
Yes.
What to do now to become something
Somebody
later?
else,
Most people don't really think about it.
They
They
don't.
take what they are given.
Yes,
They're
they
like,
do.
okay, this is where life led me.
And so this is where I've gone.
where I've gone.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm saying that I feel like I paved my way later. Yeah, when I was done with school, then I was older and I could really honestly ask myself, what do I want? And I realized that the way life is, school can take you up to somewhere, but you can actually make the decision to say, this is where school has stopped. Now I'm going to go and pursue law. Now I'm going to go and pursue this, whatever. I felt that was just the beginning and it was a good foundation, but I can move on to something else. And so that gave me a lot of freedom. However, the next decision was whether or not I should get married to Brian Mulondo.
I've heard your voice.
I've also heard this story.
I've heard your voice.
Tell us.
But not its in entirety.
That was a very hard
Why is this?
He's over there asking himself why.
But why?
So not the marriage, but the person.
The person. Because per se. You see, the thing about Brian was the day I met him, I knew we would get married.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah.
But whether I would or not
Was another
was a decision I had to make.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like Brian was an instruction from God to me to get married. Wow, Brian. Yes or not. And I'll share later
I see.
why that. But
I see.
I struggled because even he says it. He's like, Manuel, I'm not your type. I'm like, actually, you're right. And he was even telling me the other day, it's like, Bambi Manuela, I see you when we enter a room where there is your type. I keep looking at you.
Oh wow. I feel like Brian should come here and tell us Manuela's type.
You leave us alone. They will come for me. Let them leave me alone. I'm in peace.
They should put on the screen, on the half screen. Your type. Yeah, your type.
So that they can know themselves. They might be younger, they don't.
Leave me alone. I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble. Decision I ever made. I am so hands down. Brian was the best decision I ever made. And I know I've said that before.
You have.
Yeah,
You have.
I think he's the best decision I've ever made. Yeah.
We
Of
see
course, I
it.
don't know any other.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
from
can
based
only
on
base on
what
what
we
you
are
know.
going through right now,
Yeah.
Brian was our best
decision.
I don't see any other. I
How it
don't
would have
see how it
worked
would
any
have
other
worked
way.
out
Any
other way. I would have been divorced with somebody else.
Most
I would
likely.
have been but
Or unhappy in the
or
marriage.
unhappy in a marriage, or things like.
We will never know.
I'll never know.
We will never
Yeah,
know.
I'll
And
never
that's the
know.
honest truth.
Yeah, but.
And that's the thing
That
about
I remember.
about decisions.
Yeah.
You use the information you have
you
now
have.
without,
Now,
without
yeah.
creating imaginations of what could happen.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, and I
That's
think that's
true.
important. And for me, I realized that I think we've got to be clear here. I don't have tough or difficult decisions. I don't grapple with decision making. I really never have.
You have a
honestly.
process.
And I was like, I'm going to seem so unrelatable and so far removed, but I have made hard decisions. So I realized that there's two things. There are hard decisions, and then there's difficult decisions. A hard decision is a decision you make that will forever alter the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
It's a big decision that if you make today, if I decide to do sciences today, that is who I will become after. If I decide if that's a career change, say for example, life support. Taking your mother or father off life support is a difficult decision.
That's true.
So a difficult decision is one that you grapple with, that's so intense. And even after you've made that decision, sometimes you're like, did I really make the right decision? So I don't have difficult decisions. I honestly have, I tried, like I really went through my life from even when I was a child, going through step by step. I make decisions very easily, very easily. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because everything in my life, all the decisions I make, I have a system for it.
Yeah.
Me, I gather information.
You have a protocol.
And I've never faced that guilt of after or regret after. So which makes me know that I'm okay and I'm doing the right steps. So my steps are really clear and plain. I gather all the information I can available to help me weigh my options. Number 2, I sit with myself quietly over time and make what I call an assessment sheet. I go over the pros and the cons of my decisions.
Stop! You know why I'm going to say stop?
Why?
Because that's
Now let me say it for you, dear.
how I make
I go over my
and I think I've
pros
shared that
and my cons.
on my YouTube channel. People don't realize that.
But can I finish? Then you talk. Madam. You come after. No, you come after. What is a pro and what is a con? The benefits and the losses. Both in the short term and the long term. Then I put that aside. And while I'm doing that, I consider, who am I affecting directly when I have made this decision? Either decision I make. One. Number 2, I consider the risks, potential risks of what would happen if I make that decision. And then I start making plans immediately to combat those risks in the event that they do materialize. Then after that, I make the decision. And I remain positive. I stand positive and firm in the outcome, because I can only make a decision based on the information that I have available to me right now. I don't create scenes in my head of what could be or what if. And me, after I've made that decision, I remain positive in it. And I'm here. Nobody can knock me. If you come, I prepare myself for backlash.
I hear you.
To be able to
defend your decision.
I never defend,
even
to
internally.
respond. I don't defend.
Not even defending, you
to respond, because I realize some people make decisions, and if you're still weak in your decision, if somebody comes and counters you, then you become defensive.
Okay, yeah,
Because so me, I respond, to be able to respond, because it's a normal thing. If I decide never to have children again, people are going to come for me, and they'll what? And then they'll come with all these other scenarios that, as if you didn't think about all those things were on my assessment sheet. Everything was on my assessment sheet. So that's how I always make decisions. And so again, me, I have hard decisions and really not difficult ones. The hardest decision I ever made was to leave my marriage. It wasn't difficult for me at all. Please note. I didn't grapple with it. It wasn't that intense. I've always known what I want in my life. I've always known where I want to be, and I know how I want to live my life in order to get there. So every decision I make is in tandem or in tune and aligned with that. End of discussion. So when I'm assessing, I ask, what is making me going to have a more balanced life, a happier life? Who are the people I'm affecting directly? And if I'm affecting those people, how can I make this decision and buffer the impact? The impact will be there. The risks will be there, but I can't assist risks, and it's that. So let me work on figuring out the consequences. For example, when I was choosing to leave the marriage, I was deciding for my son. It not only altered the trajectory of my life, I'm coming from a married woman to a single mother. Because I have no idea if my baby daddy is going to be around to support us because of the decision I've made. So the risk was to have the father out of our lives completely. What does that render my son? Fatherless.
So what can you do about it?
What can I do? So I planned. No. I have good male figures in my life. And I made all these decisions and all these preparations while I was still in the marriage. So that by the time I leave, I'm not grappling with anything. And indeed, I identified male figures, and it's going to come off that I was selfish. And indeed, I was. Because when I looked at the pros and the cons, most of the cons were his, not mine. The pros were mine. The cons of mine were few. There were things that I could swap away, do this, do that. One, I had been married very early. I didn't have money. So I was like, now I don't have money. What can I do? My mother is tough. My parents were tough. They are not, no nonsense. I was not sure if they would allow me back. I knew for a fact I'm never going back to my parents' house. So now I had to find a way to be able to get my own place and be able to afford. But I didn't have enough savings. So now I decided, okay, that's the risk.
Time to save.
Now, it's time to save. I think I had decided in the next 3 months I have to go. Actually, I started saving 3 months, and then the place I got asked me for extra 3 months. I called my mother, and my mother, the risk was her not allowing. Now I have to find alternative sources. Luckily, she said it's okay. have this money. And I said, I don't want this to be in my book of dates
Yeah.
or a gift. It is a loan and I'm going to work off.
And pay it off.
I had a risk because I didn't have money again to stay in a house without furniture. And I stayed in a house without furniture for 3 months. I slept on the floor. My son needed a bed, he had a bed. But me, I had nowhere to sleep. People would come and visit me and would arrange ourselves on mats. I have pictures. My friends used to come and visit me, and that's how we would be. I had no TV, no nothing. I had the essentials for my child. So I had to prepare myself to have a change of lifestyle. My husband used to facilitate me in the house. But now I have to realize, hey, now I'm going to downgrade my financial position. How am I preparing myself for it? So I wrote everything down and decided, we are okay. It is fine. In our way, we are in line with my Chija. And truth to be told, hardest decision because now, luckily, co-parenting worked. So now you take off a risk. Fuchs. He stayed around and he was even a better person. I'll never know if things would have changed for us, but I don't care. All I know is like right now, the outcome is still leading me on the path that I've always set out for myself and is in line with my ultimate goal. So for me, hard decisions, but not really difficult.
I hear you. That's a good one, Kumla. I have to make a very difficult, it's actually a hard decision right now in my life. But I've thought through it. I think just the way you've said it, it's important to think through it so that you strategize and see. Yeah. So it's really hard, but I know I'll go through it. It's not something that has, given me sleepless nights. I know I'll go through it. But one of the hardest decisions I've had to make.
So we're not sharing what we're struggling with.
I am. This is the one I'm coming for here. I'm telling you, is to have the number of children that I have now. But I also feel like most times it's difficult for us, but God has aligned us in that direction. Many times I believe that it's difficult and he knows that you'll struggle, but it is what he wants for you. So of course, the economy and everything happening in that. Very many factors for us to not have the number of children we have. We have 4 children, and in this day and era, 4 is a big number, and that's the truth. And after 2, I'm like, how are we going to survive? We've not, us the women, we think about many things. We've not built, oh my God, if he's out of the way, what do I do? Because many times they're telling us, as a woman, have the children that you will also be able to manage. Just in case of anything. So don't just go out there. Don't be relying on the man. You get. So many of those things are put in perspective. And the truth is, when baby 3 came, it was a hard decision I had to make. It's that pregnancy that comes and you're like, shoot, here I am again. And then the 4th comes. But for me, I feel like when God has something aligned for you, that's why he gave me 3 boys first. Because he knew. If he had given me a girl, exactly, I would have stopped easily. So he's like, this one to manage her. Let me first give her 3 boys. I know that girls will come. The girl will come. So for me to have those number of children, because a lot had to be put in place. I'm not the kind that will decide to stay home and take care of those children. I knew I had to put in perspective that caretakers, not just 1 but 2. That's a financial strain. The house definitely had to be bigger. We had to move into a bigger house. So God prepared me. And just the things that have been falling in line, like we didn't think would be in a 5-bedroom house after baby 3, but somehow God made a way, and we're like, hey, okay, and then we could accommodate 2 caretakers, and I was like, hey, kawa. But the truth is, guys, having a child when you're in this day and era as a working mother, because like I would leave my babies after 4 months and go back to work. Like it has always been hard, but here they are, 4 children in this day and age. And when you said a statement where you said you were being ungrateful. You felt like
I was being
ungrateful. And sometimes I feel like that. Like God is like, why not? Why not? I'm there complaining, oh my God, no. He's like, why not? It's what I've chosen for you. So for me, I feel like that has been one of the hardest decisions I've had.
People of faith shouldn't grapple Because their
Exactly.
belief system dictates that.
It supports.
It supports that
That's
is the
the
plan
truth.
God has set out for me, and
Exactly.
God cannot give you more than you can handle.
Exactly.
God has decided your plans. What is I have made the plans for you. Jeremiah 29.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I alone know the plans I
He
have
said-
for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I always felt that if you have a set faith, you shouldn't grapple with decisions.
Unfortunately, we do. Unfortunately, we do. And I think it's really because, so faith really is a spiritual thing. It's not something that you can touch. It's not tangible.
Of course.
And yet, so we sort of live in duality. We have our spirit life, and then we have the
Okay, yes,
physical
true.
life, the life that we see.
That's true.
And many times there's a struggle between your spirit life and your...
Yeah.
So you know,
Okay,
it is.
okay,
You
I
know
get
the
it.
truth.
That means
but
actually
applying.
your situation might actually be harder.
Oh yeah,
It is.
1000%.
Because for me, I just make a decision.
Yes,
to
who
tell
was
my
you?
buyer. But now God has said that is your husband.
Yes,
Now you're struggling, fighting everything.
It's not my type.
It's not my type.
You're struggling with obedience.
That's it.
I'm struggling with
That's it.
That's things like
That's
that.
how it works. There's a constant fight
Okay,
between our flesh and
And
our
our
spirit.
spirit.
There is a huge fight,
we're
and the
human.
problem is the
Yeah.
flesh is a fallen flesh. So even by the time it hears from the spirit, and God operates in the spiritual realm. So to hear Him, you have to be in the spiritual realm. So can you a fallen person? You're like, now did I hear you?
Did I hear?
Was
Or
that
what
you?
was-
Because I doubt. Did you see that man walking? He looks so good. God, did you see him walking?
And now you are sending
were
me to
still
the
saying,
other one.
Brian.
But have you passed that one? Let's first go back.
Let's
first go back.
But I told you I wanted
Consider.
this one. I told you this one. Why are you showing me the other
So
one?
that's usually
I
why-
get it.
why
I
it's
get it.
strong.
Another thing I've seen people struggle with, especially now, is public opinion.
Oh, yes.
And it's such an intense struggle for many people, even much older people who you'd think should be able to, be
Stand by their
sufficient. I stand by my decision.
You know, when you were sharing earlier, and I think I'd also shared earlier that I want to say something like when we come, and I wanted it especially because of this question. You see, when we go through that decision-making process, public opinion stops being a thing. Because we've gone behind. So I know I've shared before on my YouTube channel what my own decision-making process is. And it's similar, very similar to yours. I look, I say, this is the situation. What are my pros and what are my cons? I come up with get all the information together. The only difference with me and you is that when I've sat with the pros and the cons, it comes down to what I want. It doesn't depend on the pros and the cons. The pros and the cons help me be aware.
But that's exactly what it is for me.
But when I reach, I thought that you pick, okay, oh yeah. I'm really aware and I'm just like, okay, so these cons are quite many. But I really want to do it.
Yeah. Oh.
And so I'm going to do it.
And
There
many
is
times
not-
the cons are quite many.
Yeah, the cons can be many. That most times that's why
That's why
you're
it's a hard
grappling.
decision, yeah.
The public feeling that they can make decisions for their own lives. Them they get to live two lives. They get to live their lives plus my life. How? When?
That's the
Who
struggle.
are you? Who are you? Who are you to tell me how you think I should live? Yet you are living the way you want to live. And especially for us who come and bear our truths in a public place like Bump Love. We see you in the comment section. But I want to tell you. I want to tell you there in the comment section. Whenever I see your comment, I'm just like, look at this lumpen. Why? Let me tell you that there are those ones, and I like it because there are some people who comment and say, you are not a bump lover.
We don't talk like this.
Our bump lovers are not like that. They are lumpens who, when they get we tell people share, then they share, then they're in a group, then they reach the platform is not theirs. But they subscribe because they want to find a way to abuse us from behind the screen. You are a lumpen. If you are that person,
Those ones are
those ones are lumpens, because the bump lovers, the real bump lovers, realize that this show is different women, different personalities. They are not trying to make us any. They even know us. They are like, I like the way on this show nobody forces anyone to be anybody. So even them, that means they don't try to. The lumpens are the ones who come for us, and we see you in the comments. But when I say, I'm like, but who's this lumpen? Who wants to live vicariously through me? It's not fair. You go and live your life, and you leave me with my own life.
And I'll continue from there.
Continue, dear.
Pass on the baton.
Pass it on. The cousin darling. Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Hey,
Those who mind
Drop
don't
smile.
matter. All those drop.
But I don't drop Ocha, you get it. Snap
But you who think you mind, Bambi, you don't matter.
That's
because the people who matter to us know.
Yeah.
They don't mind the decisions that we make.
Make.
They are happy for us, our parents, our kids, our husbands, our friends. They are
Actually,
the
by
ones
the
who are for
time
us.
we are already doing it, that means they are okay. Kati, you have public.
your husband is looking at
No, I know, because you know why? Because Bambi, I see my husband. Nga, he's defending me. Nga, he's trying to defend me because I laugh a lot.
I'm defending you. I was like, this one, who does she think she is? I started. Let's be respectful. Always on YouTube. Just enter defend.
Yeah, because the people who matter. Yeah, and they do keep quiet because if you are my person, you are near me 24 hours, you don't mind. Kati, you who saw me for 30 minutes. Really? Let's be quiet. Let's be guided.
I think that one of the other things that affects decision making is personality. Yeah, so I hear you and Pumla talking. You're both strong-willed individuals, and I am. But I have had to grow the muscle. Yes, it's slightly different from you guys. And I think that there are people who, like me, have struggled with desiring validation or desiring people to like you. It's a toxic trait, but I admit that I have struggled. And when you struggle with people, when you want people to like you, even when you're making decisions, you're going to want people to like the decision that you have made, because somehow in their mind, you have created this image of yourself, and you're like, I hope they see me the way I see myself, or I hope they see the good in me or the value in the decision I've had to make. So sometimes, even when you've done all the work, you've done the pros, the cons, the assessment, you will still struggle because it's like Auntie so-and-so has an issue with my decision. And I want Auntie so-and-so to like me, to accept me. I don't want to have trouble with her, you know? So there's the toxic trait of desiring human approval, but there's also wanting people to put a stamp or reaffirm your decision. And I think that because I recognize that I have it, I struggle a lot. However, now I'm learning to do that work where it's like, okay, what are the pros and the cons? How is this affecting me? How is this affecting my immediate family? And I recognize that even when I make the decision, there are going to be times ahead where I struggle. And I want to liken it to like a faith journey. When you're believing God for something and you don't yet see it, there'll be times where your faith is stronger and when it's weak, So today you'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, I believe God is going to give me that money. And then tomorrow,
You're like, when you want something that you
don't have the money, you're like, no, will this money ever come? And it's the same way even with decision making. Sometimes you make decisions, you're strong in your decision, you stand by it, you recognize the pros, the cons. You even have like your maybe close family, maybe your spouse or your partner who is like, we are on the same page. But then someone will say something that will sort of take you aback, you know? And I think it's important to recognize those times and then go back to your spreadsheets, your assessment or why you believe what you believe, to remind you. For people who are like Pumla and Rosette and Manuela, they are... No, you've not always been like that.
For me, this started for me when I was with Amanda, the one that I talked about,
Yeah.
who I really hurt. And I was a child. And I remember that one day she was watching, because she was older than me, she really started her personal development before I did.
Yeah.
So one day she was watching a video on YouTube, lessons from 100-year-olds. And I advise people to do that.
100-year-olds.
Yeah. And one of them says he regretted allowing the public opinion to affect his
him.
decisions. Like now that he's older, he's on his deathbed, about to die. Actually, it was lessons from 100-year-olds, lessons from people like who take care of people before they die. That's where it was coming from. And they were like, there was that resounding making decisions based on people's opinion was a thing many people regretted. So then we had a conversation about it, and I remember she told me, not from today, wenkomie. So when she said wenkomie, also me.
And you know why that the lesson stuck? Because you already had it in you. You had strong will. There are people who naturally we don't have strong will. That's why you will see, like when a child is born and maybe they cry a lot and they are not letting up, be like, that child is strong-willed. So they already have that thing in them.
Inside
Just
them.
inside you.
Yeah.
And
Makes
actually,
sense.
and just to make you feel a little bit better, Rachel, to be honest, people validation is actually a natural response.
Oh.
It is. We are all born with it. And by default, human beings are hardwired for connection.
Correct.
And this starts from birth.
Yeah.
As human beings, we are not equipped with fangs to help us seek for food.
Yeah.
We're not equipped with strong limbs to help us seek for shelter. We're not equipped with claws to help us protect ourselves. So by design, already from birth, we tend to rely on other people. And for you to rely on other people, for them to give you what you need, they must like you.
Yes.
And then as children, as you're growing up, your parents celebrate each and every milestone you go through. Have you ever seen a baby? Tengere mwana, immediate. The happier the parent is, the happier
The happier the child.
the happier the parent, the happier the child.
Yeah.
So this starts from birth, continues through your early years of childhood. And it has been actually, there is a term I read about that psychologists have termed, the desire for human approval and validation and admiration, and the repulsive fear of being disliked actually has a name.
Oh, it does.
And it's termed the human social survival mammoth. Do you know a mammoth? A mammoth is if you watched Ice Age, Manny, there was that guy, that mammoth. It's a woolly elephant, an extinct elephant. And why they call it a mammoth is because for two reasons. Number one, the mammoth earlier on needed people to survive, and it needed to stay in a herd. So in staying in that herd, you were never allowed to do things by yourself or for yourself, because to survive you needed to everybody needed to be around you. Then the extinct comes in the sense that you don't, it was something that was needed in the past by our ancestors. But civilization has moved so much faster, and because civilization is moving ahead of us, unfortunately, our evolutionary biology and social structure has not moved in tandem as fast as civilization. So we remain with a core need to be validated, to rely on others, to want others. That's why people post for likes. So it's there inevitably because it has not been wiped out of our biology. But what has happened, and let me tell you something else. So again, back to personality. Some people are born with a bigger mammoth than others.
Correct.
Others are born with a tame mammoth. Others, because it has been nipped in the bud in their parenting, infancy. If you don't, and you'd see it's going to be worse now because children are celebrated for participating. Merely participating. When you were in a home where you had to achieve something so much higher for you to be celebrated, it's checked. It means that mammoth was checked, tamed when you were younger. There are people as they grow, and let me tell you, by the way, even those who think that they're fine, they still struggle with that mammoth in certain areas. And others, so I can come here and tell you, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but there can be something even small where I'm weak and I'm struggling. It's not weakness, I don't think it's a weakness, but you struggle or you grapple with it. And there are people who die, by the way, after even 90 years old, and that mammoth hasn't been tamed. That constant yearning or craving for social approval is vicious, and it its real problem is that it leads you into certain insecurities about yourself.
Yeah.
And then you don't even realize that what people are doing is projecting their life stories and life experiences onto you. And each and every one of us has an authentic life to live. Devoid of what anybody else says.
Yes. Yeah.
Each and every one of us has a true and authentic life to live, devoid and uninfluenced by anyone else, by the public, by nobody else, not by society, not by close family, not by children, not by teachers, not by pastors, not by anybody. Yourself, your center, your core. And I've always felt that because if you allow people to come in for you, you'll never live authentically. You'll never know who you are. You will never know who you are. Somebody comments that, hey, Manuela, you laugh loud. Then you laugh, you tell me you laugh. Someone else comes and says, hey, Manage, Rosette, I think what you said to Rachel was not nice, the way you talk to her. Yet for you, that's how you talk and you understand your friendship. Then you change the way that you speak because of what somebody else has said. And this is not to say that there's no positive or constructive criticism and feedback. So you just need to be aware of what is good for you and what the hell is noise. But when you make a decision, you've got to be able to stand by it and stick by it, because if you allow public opinion to come for you, you can change your decision 5 times.
That's true.
Because 5 different Sengas and Kojas and Tatas have a different opinion about the decision you made. So you've got to just learn to get a grip onto your mammoth.
I'll just share briefly about what has helped me with this journey. For me, it's been mainly God and wanting my validation to come from God and not from people. Because when God validates you, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. If he says that you're righteous, you're a child of God, you're blessed, it does not matter. It gives you so much confidence that any noise, any background noise will just fall back, because you know who you are, you know what he has chosen you for. Honestly, for me, it's been God, and every time I'm reminded, it will not matter, whatever you say.
I love God. I really love God, because when you have someone there in control, so
when you have someone else to blame, you're like, God told me, so I'm going, I'm moving. No, but I would like to to add on to that. The truth is, for us who walk that spiritual walk, and Pumla likes to tease us, the truth is we really do want it's to be done by somebody else. Like the decision was, we have absconded, our responsibility to a higher power. And know it all power. And so you can sit rested in that decision. But I want to say something in addition. It does feel nice. It feels amazing, because it comes with so much peace that transcends all understanding. Where people are like, you are just there in the storm, in the whirlwind. You're like, you will watch and wait. But I want to say something, that for most times, those of us that are on that journey, it usually has to be in line with his will. Like that's how you know, like in line with his purpose for your life. I found that making decisions that are in line with my purpose are so easy. So easy. Like no matter how hard it is, like now I understand why I had to get married to Brian. Because of my purpose. And now then, therefore, moving forward, every decision, you call me, hi Manuela, I would like you to speak. I look at it and I pass it through my purpose filter. Very quickly pass it through my purpose filter and say, is this in line or not in line?
Well, nice. We are all on this learning journey, by the way. Sometimes we speak here hard truths, and Rachel likes to say, you guys, you're like this, but you don't know we are also struggling with these things. When we come out and speak authentic truths, it's not that we have arrived. No,
I do not think
we are all on a journey. No. I feel like people think we have because of maybe the comments that we might say. If you say like, oh, Manuela, I know we are all struggling in the journey. I know you know, but I think our viewers sometimes don't know. They're like, hey, I want to be like you, because we receive those DMs. We receive them. They don't know that I'm also struggling on my journey. I'm on some kind of journey. Just that I may be putting in much more work to be better. So I'm just encouraging you to put in some. We actually got a from
An email, please.
An email. It was a long email, and Bambi. We had to truncate it just to pick out the relevant parts, but we didn't not without losing the general message. Now, Jemba, may you read for us that email?
May I read the message? I like her to call me Najem.
Najem.
I was in a relationship. I start the email. I was in a relationship, living together with my baby daddy. When I tried to bring up conversations about marriage, the trending anthem was, no money, things are tight. Over time, I got frustrated because not only was I paying all the bills, he was not supportive in any way. I felt alone in this relationship. To top it all off, I learned from his brother that he tried to swindle money from me in the name of buying land. Luckily, I had reached my loan limit. Long story short, I woke up one morning and decided to leave. Decisions, decisions, decisions. She decided to leave. It's been 7 years since I still live with the guilt that maybe I should have tried harder, especially since co-parenting failed. People keep telling me things like, as long as your life isn't threatened, sit and cook. Children need their father in the house. My family even makes an example of me being the one who failed marriage. Families, do better, do better. Question, was it wrong for me to choose my career and sanity over that situationship? Over to you, ladies.
Bambi, I empathize with this person, and of course she asked us to.
It was hard.
Decision. She asked us to keep her identity anonymous, and we are going to do that. I think that she's. I don't know if the question is, should I not have left? I feel like she already put in the work, asking herself and knowing that this is a bad situation, it's time for me to leave. But now public opinion is influencing, and not just any public opinion that is close. Your family, your relatives, the people who you esteem and put on some sort of pedestal, that these are people you respect, and now they are thinking. But there's also the whole conversation of marriage today, and my views on marriage are very radical.
Tell us.
No, I'm not saying that to say what my views are. I am just saying that the way we think about marriage today and versus the way the world is preaching marriage, the way I think about marriage versus the way the world is preaching marriage is very different. Sometimes I feel like even when people are saying you should stay if your life is not threatened, blah, 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 that may not necessarily be God's will for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it might be informed by just tradition, and now where you're going to get another man, you're going to inconvenience us, I think now we have to go through events, blah, blah, blah. Not that the marriage is actually working and that there is hope for it. So there's a difference between you're married and maybe you're going through a rough patch, stick it out and work in your marriage, versus things are happening that maybe you need to take a step back. Because I've had stories where people come together, something happens, and they have to separate before they can be restored.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I don't think that is what was happening here, because there was one party who was willing to work on the issues based on what she has shared with us, versus the other one who maybe was also going through his own journey that we know nothing about, and therefore they were on two different wavelengths. I think you're the one who keeps saying that sometimes you might meet a person and maybe they are right for you, but the timing is off.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of have a feeling this is what was happening. So the whole marriage conversation is so heavily influenced by society today that I can understand why she's grappling with her decision. And so I guess my advice for me would be to go back to why you left in the first place, and then give room for healing, reconciliation. Reconciliation is possible. We're not ruling it out if it's what you want, but I don't think your separation or your leaving should be, let me leave so that maybe sometime in the future we will get together. Live for yourself. You have left, you have a child, you need your sanity, so leave. And then the people who are thinking about why you left and maybe you didn't do enough, go back to what Manuela said. They are not you. They were not in the situation that you were in. You have all the information, even information that they don't have, you know. So you made that decision based on what you were seeing, your current circumstances. Therefore, be okay in your decision and find time to heal and recuperate And who knows, maybe 10 years down the road, maybe you'll meet someone different. Maybe you'll meet the same changed man, because we evolve as human beings. Yeah, so I guess those would be my 2 cents.
And it's that thing I think people struggle with a lot, being okay with your decision. I find that most people who struggle with regret and guilt, and by the way, to have regrets and have guilt is normal. It's actually good for you. It's actually been documented that the only people who have no regrets, even in the face of poorly made decisions, are sociopaths. And or people who have brain damage. It's been noticed in those 2 people. Even in the face of poorly made decisions. Regret is normal, it is. But I find that most people, it's now an issue of how do I live or deal with the regret? How do I handle the regret that comes after? So you can tame that consequence very quickly, nip it in the bud very quickly. So I find that most people who struggle more with regret and guilt are people who made decisions from a position of desperation, anger, fear, emotions running high, rather than from a position of clarity. Emotions are transitory, conscious. It's like every emotion you feel, whether it's happiness or sadness or disappointment or anger or fear, it's literally a transitory process of consciousness. And if you just let it run its course, it will, because it passes. It does pass. You cannot make a decision based when your emotions are running high, because if you make it in this moment, you'll regret it then in the next, and then it's been done. And then what can you do? You can't take it back. And then to top it all off, I feel like this lady, 7 years. Me, that's the part that caught me. She made this decision 7 years ago, but she's still struggling with the consequences of her decision. I don't believe that, they said time heals all wounds. I believe that time just takes that edge off acute pain, but it doesn't heal the wound. What heals the wound actually is consistent effort to achieve healing over time.
That's true.
If you're not putting in the work or effort, if you're not going to heal. And let's start with guilt. By the way, guilt and self-pity, all they do is hinder your progress. They delay pain. So you allow yourself, if you choose to dwell in bad emotions, pity parties, self-pity hinders growth. You will never go anywhere. You're just there. You become trapped in memories of a past that you have no control over. And then where is that leading you? You can't move forward. You're stuck in a bubble. And that's, you can't live, there is no future. There is no future. There is no future. You're in a bubble of your past and you can't progress from there on. And if you decide to live in it perpetually and viciously and dwell in it, you know, I've realized that there are people who, they've decided to be defined by their problems. If they have no problems, then who am I? What am I? Who am I? Yeah. So they fear to break through that bondage of suffering because that's how they identify. But you need to put in consistent work and effort over time to heal to achieve some kind of healing and to move forward. Number 2, stop building castles in the air over things that you have no idea. You don't know the outcome of what another decision could have made. You could have ended up dead. We've buried people who have decided to stay in marriages, in bad marriages. You could have ended up dead. You could have ended up thriving. You don't know. What you know is the decision where you are right now. Nothing else. So just take pride in that. And that is it. What Rachel said for me is always that assessment sheet. Always go back. You know, I've found and why heartbreak lingers on so much for mainly women, and men as well, is that when we've broken up, whenever our memories, now we forget the bad things. We only remember the good ones. You pass by Entebbe Newot Airport, then you see Lido Beach, then you remember. Now, I want to implore you to remember. Whenever you feel a good memory coming, swash it.
Bring it with a bad.
Swash it. And then replace it immediately with a bad one. Because on your assessment sheet, you had the reasons for leaving. You had them, you put them in place. Always refer to that assessment sheet. Let it remind you of why you made your decision and why you made the right one. And always be positive for the decision you've chosen, that it will come out in exactly the way it was intended. Because this life, by the way, life is here for you. not
It's
against
for
you.
you.
Life is for you. God is for you.
Yeah.
Nobody is here transpiring to make you upset. No one. Like, I feel like people are there saying, why me? Why would they do that to
Why
me?
not
No,
you?
why not you? Seek the lessons. There are lessons in every decision you make. So if you decide to become blind and decide to form a pity party for yourself, instead of rising above it and seeking the lessons, you'll remain stuck forever. Learn to forgive yourself. That's the last one.
Oh,
Because there are decisions you're going to make that are going to harm not just you, but other people as well.
Yeah.
But it is the decision that was best for you. Maybe not today. And by the way, not today, because I'll remember, I was like this lady when I left my home. I will tell you how I struggled. I struggled. I had a plan, and I couldn't go to study, because now who do you leave your child with? Like, there were so many things, but I learned to forgive myself. It's the decision I've made. It's the decision I've chosen. Live, and you know, you own the consequences of those decisions. Never said that man was bad. That man dwindled money from me. No, you chose him. The man you didn't want marriage. Every time you bring up marriage, he says no money. The man is not supportive. You knew he had no money. You went and you decided to get pregnant. Before he married you, you made that choice. So learn to forgive yourself for the decisions you made that have led to where you are right now. Because no single person is accountable for everything. You also had a role to play. So
I totally
learn to forgive yourself.
I totally agree with you. And for me, when she pointed out sanity in that question, was I wrong to choose my sanity, guys?
Right.
Mental health.
Self-love.
Mental health. That's self-love. Mental health is real. Like, you cannot choose to be insane or raise your child in a broken home. You'd rather raise your child away from that, you know, insane situation. So, my dear, you are not wrong, but there's a lot of internal work that she has to do. I also believe, because it's from within. It starts from us. It's a mental. It comes from here. It's a mind game. So choose to think positive. Choose to say positive things about yourself. You're not bad. You're not bad for choosing to run away. You're not an evil person for the choices you made, regardless of what people say. Choose to believe what God says about you. Choose to believe what God says about you. You're not wrong, but internal work has to be done. The truth is, like Umla said, people want the easy way out of things. In a marriage, to thrive, you work.
You have to work.
If it is failing, you still work. So you choose your hard work. You choose your hard work.
I like that. Either way, it's
work.
Choose your hard work.
Use your hard work. So if you've chosen to be away, it is well. And there's now, for her, she has one child. There's a lot. The future is bright. You are not married. You'll get a man. Forgive yourself. I like that you said forgive yourself, because many people don't forgive themselves. But the Lord died for you. They forgave you. Forgive yourself.
Right? Yeah.
So I think that's why when I'm making decisions and I've done my assessment sheet, it comes down to, what do I really want? Yeah. So that then later I remind myself, it's what I wanted, or what my actual situation is. And I've spoken to many women who want to leave their marriages. And when when it's time to leave and they don't leave, they've given themselves a date, I see it. I say, so why didn't you leave? Now you see he did like this, he did like this. I said, okay. When we finished him, netumuteka on the table. About you. No, for me, I'm tired. I'm like, no, if you're tired, you would have left. So why are you still in a marriage? Maybe it's because I'm thinking that I don't have money. I'm like, no. There are many poor women around who make it. You have a job. You can start. You can really start. Why do you really want to? Why have you stayed?
Where have you stayed?
Not why do you want to leave? And then they realize they still love him.
Of course.
I'm like, okay. So can we allow that we still love this man? And I remember when I saw this thing, my first comment was, no, she still loves this man. Because the thing is, when you see, the thing is, many times we don't want to accept.
Well, about me, when I read it, I didn't want to accept that hard truth. I was hoping no one said it out loud.
Wow!
Because 7 years.
Yes, 7 years. The truth is, they still...
It is there.
You can try and say the public, what, but the truth is, That you know that you were in a marriage, you know that you didn't want, you know that you wanted a marriage, you know that you didn't get the marriage, you know you have a child with him, you know he didn't provide, you know all these things.
All these things.
So those reasons should be enough. For when the world comes to say, like, friend, you can be with that man. You try. That's where you should. But by the time you cannot, there are some chances that maybe you need to sit down and accept the fact that there might be something still there. Not even the thing of building a castle where you're like, you know what, if we had fallen in love, you were in love, and you might still possibly still be in it. And I'm a person that, like I've said, that's why for me my emotions are they're not important at that point, but where I recognize my emotion at that real particular point, so that I am reminded that when I made that decision, that emotion was long-standing. Like, you understand? Yes. So I don't know how many times, like even when we are fighting with Brian, I would just say, but I love this man. It's cool, I love him. If I didn't, I would be out by now. I would really be out. Oh, but you come and accept. Acceptance is so important. So that then, even if you left Nga, you know you loved him. 7 years later, I'd be like, hey, the truth is now I'm disturbed. The things people are saying are validating the fact that I still love him.
From what you just said.
No, say.
Why?
Because I feel like in a marriage, love has to be put in a certain corner. Many times, love is overrated or it is over-exaggerated in a marriage because it's a feeling. Love is a feeling.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it's an action.
Yeah, so I think people define love different.
Yeah.
And if you define love as a feeling, then you'll say, okay, put love on the side. If you define love as a verb, a doing word, actions, respect, pledge, all the good things that come with love, then you need love. You can't separate it. But it depends on your definition.
But yes, love like is the greatest command of all. When you say love, it's the greatest command of all. But many times we get lost. For example, a guy will see you in 2 days and tell you he loves you. That's not love. Yeah. He doesn't love you. Because in a marriage, I feel it is.
It reminded me, I have a friend, we met the little man. Just today we were about what? At a party. In the night, he asked my friend for her number. He sent her a message. We met him at 8 p.m. He sent her a message at 3 a.m. the next morning. I love you. She abused the man.
How can you not abuse that one?
I love the way you put your hair. I love the way you put on your lipstick. I love the way he even went to Babu Molly.
I wanted to finish that, and I heard this from I don't remember who it was, and he was speaking on love and marriage. So sometimes you have to put love in a corner because the feeling of love. And you're right, people understand love differently. Now that little man, for him, love just comes. For him, it's a feeling anyway. But the understanding of love is big. Like God, that's the greatest commandment. He loved the world so much. He commands us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. But in a marriage, love is a commitment. Love is a covenant. Like regardless of what happens, whether he broke his leg the next day or whatever it is, it is a constant. Like you stay, whether you've had a bad fight or not, you stay. So many times when the bad fight is there, there's no love. There's no love. So you need to think beyond what love is in a marriage for it to stay. So many times, maybe she has thought of in such situations. So there's a lot. So for me, I feel like even if it's love, like even if you love them, it's past, the feeling of love.
So I actually think we're saying the same thing. I'm saying that she's saying that the reason she's feeling this way is because of what the world is saying. What the people around her are saying is affecting her. But I'm saying that maybe it's not. Maybe it's that cheating, that feeling of the love, and
the feeling of the love.
Yeah, feeling of the love, and it would have
what you need to put in it.
And I'm saying that at the point of making the decision, many times when you're making those decisions, you throw out. You put the love on the side, and then you make the decision, and so I'm out. Now you reach outside, that thing you put on the side comes back to bite you. But had you said, okay, yeah, I love the man. It's there. However, A, B, C, D, E, F. When 7 years later, the world is talking, you even can encourage them. You say, Munange, I would have been there, naye mama. I couldn't. Naye anyway. Yeah, even when they talk about people with bad marriages, you say, Banange, my marriage, it would have been bad. Naye nga musajja mwagala. Naye, yeah, you get, if you recognize, because I feel like she doesn't. That's why I said she has, like, I agreed with you when you said internal work needs to be done. And I'm telling you, the way we were raised in this life, we don't do internal work. We don't even allow our children learn to do internal work because we learn later in life. But if we could teach our children how to do the internal work and introspect later in life, it would have been easy.
But don't forget
I do agree.
as well.
Always.
Love yourself.
Yeah, I do that well. By the time we started this conversation, for me, I've always had my stand on decisions, so it's been lovely to be able to pick on what your thought processes and your decision-making processes look like. So to your viewers, is there a decision that you're struggling and grappling with right now? If you don't want to regret it or feel guilty about the decision, when you eventually do make it, then just lean into what has been discussed here. We are all on a journey, you know, and we'd all wish we could have to make right decisions, but it doesn't always turn out that way because the decisions we make vary from hard extremes to much softer and easier extremes. But again, adulting dictates that we must make tough decisions. So this is to doing the internal work, to aligning our personalities, our thoughts on worldview with what we ultimately want for ourselves, so that public opinion does not get into the way of who we actually and truly are, and so that we are able to be comfortable and accepting of the decisions that we make. And you know where you can take some time off to sit by yourself and make a decision that is good for you? The Golden Tulip Hotel. Yes. Right now we're in a beautiful lounge where you just need some time for self-reflection, you know, and even a weekend. The rates are not expensive, they're very affordable. You can take off a week, come here, we're in the middle of town, it's quiet, right? On a nice 12B Kafu Road. Yes. And take some time off, do your work, have meetings with yourself, and by the time you leave, you'll feel refreshed. The rooms are exquisite, both for business and leisure. Then Sunday, after you've made your decision, Sunday morning, come treat yourself for a brunch. Yes. Adults own 90,000, and then invite all those people who might be affected by the decision and to join you for brunch and talk about it. That's only here at the Golden Tulip Hotel. Until next time, with love from Bump Love.
Bump Love was brought to you by
Unlimited internet at unbeatable prices. Dial *125# to activate your monthly unlimited internet. Airtel, a reason to imagine.